We know what the situation has been like of late. We've seen stories in the papers regarding his lifestyle being something that's not aligned with the culture at Manchester United. And we saw him at the basketball over in New York during the international window, and that got criticism for him as well. We know about the time that he showed up late for training because he was out in Belfast the night before. There has been a series of negative headlines around Marcus Rashford. Of course, he hasn't delivered on the pitch either, and at the weekend he was dropped from the squad completely for the Manchester derby, which is a game, of course, he would have sorely wanted to be involved in. So we know it's a difficult situation for Marcus Rashford right now. But we've also seen, on the other side of things, stories in the papers regarding his future saying Manchester United are happy to accept £40 million for him in January. Very specific story for journalists to come out with, and I agree with Henry on this. They would have been well sourced, and the facts in those stories I think we can believe. That is a big indication that the club would be happy to move Marcus Rashford on. Now, you can share your thoughts on all of it here on talkSPORT this evening on 03717 22 3344. I'm Hugh Woozencroft, alongside the Chelsea FA Cup winner Scott Minto. You can share your thoughts first of all.
Yeah, look, I mean, the fact that it has come out, I mean, you don't know how true it is, but you would think it would be well sourced. £40 million, it is a specific figure. I'm not even sure they get £40 million, or if he's saying he's quite happy to go, I don't think people are going to pay £300,000-400,000 a week for him for the next 4 or 5 years. So he's going to have to drop his wages a lot if he wants to go, or he's going to have to he'll turn around to the club and say, well, you got to almost pay me money to go. I don't see where he's going to go, certainly not on those type of wages. I think he's definitely worth a punt, and to say worth a punt seems ridiculous. But for £40 million, if anyone can get the best out of Marcus Rashford, then what a player they've got on their hands. But where is he mentally? Where is he? Is it just that he needs to get out of Manchester? Or is it that mentally he's kind of gone as a player? You know, physically, Henry was talking about how there's nothing on him and he looks great and looks an absolute athlete. But Hugh, I covered with Alex Crook, who you know is a Manchester United fan as well, the game against Victoria Pilsen for talkSPORT. Not only did he not play well, and people can not play well, but and not only did he not run around, but it just looked as if he wasn't bothered. And that's my problem. Like what he did going to the States and going to a basketball game, I don't necessarily have a problem with him going to a basketball game. I do have a bit of a problem with him with the time zone difference. And just as a new manager's about to come in, you want to show that you're really up for it. And even if it was prearranged, he can afford to just financially say, right, I'm not going now. I need to impress this new guy. You know, I'm not someone who's into sort of the optics and perception, but it's really important you make a statement to your new manager coming in that you're absolutely bang up for this. I'm not going now to this particular place. Even if I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm here for you and Manchester United, and I want to create a first impression because you only get one chance at a first impression. I think you'll agree with me. I think everyone will agree with me that we see that we're reaching the end of the line with Marcus Rashford at Manchester United. However, I have felt that he has been slightly unfairly treated by comparison with some of his peers at Manchester United. We haven't had stories about other players being sold in January and Manchester United want this much money. And we don't know if Manchester United do want to sell certain players for, and they
I'm not saying that they don't want to sell them, but what I'm saying is, you know, the constant attention on his future. I think for someone who's not even in the team at the moment, why is it such a big storyline? But he's the star.
He's the big name, Hugh. You know, and again, I hate going back to the fact of what a player is on wages wise. But if you are one of your, if not the top paid player for a significant amount of time, then you need to be training better. You need to be running around better. Anyone can play badly and not do well, but you need to be showing a bit more.
Who's played well at Manchester United and who showed
but
that much?
But that's not the point.
No, but
surely if you're Marcus Rashford, it's about you.
But for my
lead.
I know, but from
you're
my
27
perspective,
years of age now, on your highest paid player at the club, lead.
But in terms of treatment by fans and media, I still think there's an added scrutiny on him compared to his peers, where it's almost been nothing on some of the other players in the squad and everything on him. That's why I'm not saying that there should be nothing spoken about.
I don't think there's
when
nothing.
It comes to Rashford.
When you play for Manchester United, everybody's under the spotlight. But I do agree with you.
They're all for sale. We should be putting out figures for every single player in the Manchester United squad.
Well, no, Amarin's judging, isn't he? He's rotation, you know, and at some point he's got to stop rotating and realise who he doesn't.
But this would give an indication that he's almost made his mind up on Rashford already.
Whereas Rashford has come out and said
which would be strange. No, but the stories in the papers, did they come from nowhere?
I I just find
I don't think they come from nowhere.
It's why I asked Henry if, and it would be, I just love to know the conversation between the two. Ruben Amorim decides, and if Amorim has turned around and said, you know what, already within a couple of weeks, I don't want him, get rid of him if you can, then that speaks volumes.
I think it's a club decision. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe has made a decision. In your sport,
Ruben
made a
Amorim's
decision.
Stronger than that.
No,
if Ruben Amorim thinks that he can get the best out of Marcus Rashford, he'd be saying, Sir Jim, leave it with me. Just give me to the end of the season and let's see what I can do with him.
We've seen it happen at other clubs. Managers have come in and just not been given the choice of working
Ten Hag, to be fair, had a lot of power. He was helping bringing in players. Up until even this season, when many people, myself included, thought he shouldn't really be there in the first place. Ruben Amorim has even more power right now. And if he looks at Sir Jim in the eyes and say, I'm telling you now, I can get the best out of this kid, and that is what the whole of Manchester United want. He's on a massive contract. United are going to have to take a massive hit to get rid of him. They do not want that. So he wants the manager to turn around and say to him, leave it with me, I'll get the best out of him. And I don't know if he is or he isn't, but if Amorim is saying after a few weeks that, do you know what, yeah, you can get rid of him, that speaks volumes.
Rumours in newspapers that he's up for sale this January for £40 million. And now we hear from the man himself that he feels he is ready for a new challenge. What does it all mean? You can share your views here on talkSPORT on 03717 223344. I'm Hugh Woozencroft alongside the Chelsea FA Cup winner Scott Minto. Let's get to your calls and speak firstly to a couple of United fans. We'll start with James. Good evening.
Hi there, mate. How you doing? Okay.
I'm okay. I'm feeling quite sad about the words out of Marcus Rashford's mouth this evening, because we all love, what he's done for the club over the time that he's been there. We love players that come out of the academy. It's a tradition of our football club, and we want a fairy tale ending. We don't want our players to fall out of form and almost be forced out of the club. What's your view on Rashford?
Well, first and foremost, I'm from Manchester. I'm a season ticket holder. And a year to the day, tomorrow, in fact, December 18th, 2023, I was at Old Trafford with my son as a result of a tragic situation, which I won't go into, to meet all the players at Old Trafford. And we met all the players. I have to say that Tom Heaton was an absolutely gem, wonderful human being. Marcus Rashford, my son sat next to me, so be quiet, Thomas. But we waited for Marcus Rashford all day, and he turned up, and he was in the only player of all of the players in the squad that turned up dressed in a Nike outfit when the whole team was sponsored by Manchester United with a Man United uniform. Now, you may say that's trivial. Amorim's talking about the way players dress, the way they behave, the way they perform, the way the attitude and all the rest of it. His attitude absolutely stunk. Now, I don't care whether he's from Withenshaw, whether he's a local boy or whatever. I think his attitude stinks. I really do. The way he performs on the pitch, the way his approach. I don't care about how much food he's given to local kids and what he's doing in the. He's basically putting sound bites out there. There are, Roy Keane talks about characters. He is not a character. I don't care. I don't care about what the media says about him or anything else. I want to see a player that goes out and performs on the pitch for Manchester United and puts effort and graft in. That fella does not do that. He's overprivileged. His behaviour going, I don't care if he goes and has a drink and all that. Why is it all over social media? I don't care if he goes to America to see a basketball game, but I completely, in terms of Jim Ratcliffe laying off 250 people and redundancies and bringing them all back into the office, I know I'm rambling, but, we need to get Man United back on track. And this fella is a bad egg. He's a bad egg, and simple as that. In my opinion, fantastic footballer, hugely talented, off the scale in terms of talent, but that talent not applied is just a simple waste of time.
It's a strong accusation, James, I've got to say, because I'm not sure many...
Let him go.
Yeah. I'm not sure many at Manchester United would say that, but I appreciate your call. I appreciate where you're coming from that. Maybe fans get to the end of their tether when they do see, what has been at times looked like a lack of effort from a highly paid player, but also someone who doesn't look like their focus is on their football.
Yeah, look, I think James has had a meeting with him and it obviously didn't go well. I think you can meet people at any times and they can be in a bad place. We don't know where they are. It's very difficult to take a snapshot and say, well, that's what they're like. But he can certainly say, well, he should have been in the same uniform as United. You can't say he's a bad egg in the sense of everything that he's done, again, from society's point of view. He's certainly not that as a person. But United fans, to a point, don't care about that. It's about what this guy does for your club. And I know it's going to sound really sort of strange what I'm saying, and maybe feeling sorry for him is the wrong way of saying it when he's on 300-400 grand a week. But I almost feel like he's grown up in totally the wrong culture, at totally the wrong time at United. I played against the likes of Beckham, Keane, Scholes, Giggs, Sheringham. Ferdinand played with Rio and against him as well. Could you imagine what they'd have been like as he was coming through the ranks and started to get perhaps a little bit chippy and a little bit above himself? No one of the last decade has been able to do that. And I think he's grown up in a really bad environment, a really bad culture. He's been allowed to get away with anything. The hierarchy have got rid of managers rather than giving them the power and said, no, we've got to get rid of certain players. So he is where he is right now. I don't like really hearing that story, but James has got his story of Marcus Rashford. That's his meeting with him, and who can argue with that?
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.